Hey guys, Mr. Bowman here. Our first video for today, and I've got the webcam going as well. So today's learning objective is in blue, and we are learning to convert between fractions and percentages. So this video for the first task, that's going to focus on the conversion from fractions to percentages. And the next video and the next exercise will go the other way around, where we're going to go from percentages back to fractions. So we do need to know both of those. Okay, we're going to get into some straightforward examples. We're going to build it up into some tricky examples. So the first fraction I want us to do is 2 divided by 100. And what we need to do is we need to convert that to the decimal version. And I just want to note we've got 200s here. So we're going to go 0.02 because that 0 represents the number of tenths and that 2 represents the number of hundredths. And once we've got our decimal, what we can do is we can then multiply that decimal by 100. So we're going to go times 100. And that cancels out these zeros. And that leaves 2. So that there would be 2%. And if you needed to, you can do that last step on your calculator as well. So let's have a look at another example. So we do it slightly trickier. So we've got 16 divided by 100. How would that look as a percentage? So first step, let's write it as a decimal. So we've got 16 hundredths. So we got a tenth, which is that 1. And we've got that 6, which is 16 100ths. And we're going to times that by 100. And what actually is going to happen here is we are going to now ignore that 0. And that's going to leave 16%. And the last number, 37 divided by 100. We're going to change that. So hopefully we've noticed the pattern. That just goes after the decimal point now. So 0.37. We're going to times 100. And again, hopefully we're noticing a pattern where we ignore the dot and the 0. And that's going to leave 37%. So that's our trick. So we want to focus on moving it to hundredths. And then we can use that skill to get to a decimal and then a percentage. So let's change pen color. Let's try some trickier examples. So what if we had 1/10? How would we do that? So first step is, what we can do is we can change the tenths and we can get that to hundreds by timesing it by 10. And if we times the bottom by 10, we've got to times the top by 10. And 1 times 10 becomes 10. And then that means we can convert it to our decimal, 0.10, so 0.10, and we can times that by 100, and that means we can ignore the dot and the 0, and that would leave us with 10%. So hopefully we've got that. The trick was that beginning bit, converting the fraction to something to do with hundredths. So let's try another example. Let's try 5/25. So we're setting it up, we've got to get it to hundredths. So how do we get that 25 to hundredths? For me, that looks like we're going to be timesing it by 4. If we times that by 4, we've got to times the top by 4. So 5 times 4, well, that's 20. That means it's going to be 0.20. And we're going to times that by 100. And that means we can ignore the dot and the 0. And that will give us 20%. So that's a bit of a trick as well, converting to hundreds. And there will be the occasional question where that's not possible, where that type of work doesn't work. So let's have a look. Let's do 7 divided by 23. How do we get that to hundreds? And the shorter answer is we can't, because if we do 100 divided by 23, that's 4.348926087. And that's just not going to work. We can't times the 7 by that number. So at this point here, when it doesn't work out this way, what we can do, our little trick, is we're going to use division. We're going to convert our fraction to division. 7 divided by 23 is a bit easier to do. That there is 0.30. And what I've done is I've used my rounding skills that we learned yesterday. I've rounded that to 2dp, so I've rounded that number down to 0.3. And now that we've got our decimal version, we can multiply it by 100, which will leave us with 30%. And we'll go through one more of the harder examples. Let's do a tricky one. Let's do a big number. Let's do 311 divided by 501. So the trick, obviously 501, that's not really going to go into 100 that well. So we're going to change it to division. 311 divided by 501. And I'm going to plug that into my calculator next to me. 311 divided by 501. And that comes to 0.6207. I'm going to round that to 2dp again. And the number before that is 0, which means I'm going to round that down to 0.62. So I'm going to get rid of the 0 and the 7. And after that, we're going to times that by 100. And that's going to get us to 62%. So just to recap, the first type of question we looked at are questions where we have hundreds and we can easily convert that to a percentage. The second type of question was one where we could convert the number to something to do with hundreds, and then we did our same process. And the final question up the top, they were ones that didn't really work, couldn't get them into hundreds, so we used our division. And I just want to note, this division approach, that will actually work for any of the examples. So if we did the same for that first question, 2 divided by 100, the same answer we would get. So you can use the approach up here with the calculator for any of the 3 types of questions that we looked at today. Hopefully you found this video useful. Now let's get into heaps of questions.